Do your students look bored during story time? Do you want them asking you to read it again? Well, in this video, I tell you about 7 ways to keep preschoolers engaged during story time, even if it's a story they heard a bajillion times. So stay tuned. Hi there, I'm Miss Celeste, your co-teacher and former classroom teacher, and I help new preschool teachers develop efficient systems and processes for effective classroom management. And if you're looking for a place to share your wins, your lessons learned, while also getting some tips and tricks about classroom management, go ahead and join my Facebook group. The link is in the description. So before I get into the video, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. I realize that you can be anywhere else listening to someone else, but you are here, and I appreciate it so much. So again, thank you. Now, let's get into that video. The first way to keep preschoolers engaged during story time is by using your emotions. You're going to pull emotions from the story, pull emotions from the characters. You're going to make sure that whatever is happening in the story is palpable for the children to feel as well. A perfect story that I have done this with is the Pout Pout Fish. And it could be just identifying with the emotions of that character. It could just be amplifying what is being said on the paper that the character is saying. So if the character is looking sad, then you're gonna look sad and also say it as if you were sad. I think it also helps them identify their emotions when a character is also experiencing the same things or have experienced the same things that they have in their lives. The second way to keep your preschoolers engaged during story time is by using your voice. So when you're using your voice, I'm talking about you're either going fast if the story lends itself to going fast, you're gonna go slow, you're gonna bring your voice up high, you're gonna bring your voice down low, you're gonna make your voice quiet or loud. Whatever is called for in the story, you're going to capitalize on that and use that in your storytelling. So this is not about being bland and just reading the words on the paper. You have to want to get into it as well. So I suggest making sure it's a story that you have read before so that you can tell when these different changes are happening. If you're reading something, for instance, Goodnight Moon, you can switch to a quieter voice. And if you're reading something that like The Cat in the Hat, where everything is like loud and rambunctious, then you can also show that in your voice as well. But doing those kind of things definitely will make your children tune in to what it is you're saying and doing and what's happening in the story. The third way to keep your preschoolers engaged during story time is to use props. And your prop can be anything. It could be clothing that you're wearing. It could be puppets that you have in your classroom that can actually tell the story for you in a way. Their children are funny when they react to it because they actually are looking at the puppet as the puppet is reading instead of the teacher, who is obviously the voice of the puppet. But it's so funny that because it's something novel that doesn't happen a lot of the time, children are so focused on the puppet telling the story that they don't even see or forget that the teacher's even there. And as far as clothing is concerned, it doesn't have to be a full-on costume, that you put on, but something that maybe can bring the story to life a little bit more. Like for instance, I remember reading Caps for Sale. And in the story, the peddler wears a whole bunch of caps on its head. So in our dramatic play area, we had like a bunch of caps, and we didn't have checked caps and red caps and all that stuff, but I still put the caps on my head and pretended to be the peddler, and they were having so much fun with it, and I was too. So bringing props and bringing like different articles of clothing into your story reading will definitely engage them. If you're finding value from this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so that other new teachers can find it as well. Now let's spice things up with these next few ways to keep preschoolers engaged during story time. And the fourth way is to turn it into a felt story. So with a felt story, you can do it during your circle time, during your story time, and you can also leave it in a center for the children to also retell the story, maybe act it out as well. So I have here some items that I made. What I did was I cut out some pictures out of a book, like a teacher's resource book of like the characters and the house. And all I did was I got some felt. I hot glued it onto the back of the paper. I used cardstock, so it's a little more sturdier, so that you can do that. So this is a familiar story, Little Red Riding Hood. And I have this box here. I think I got it from like Amazon. So what I did was I just covered it with some contact paper from the Dollar Tree, and I bought a roll of felt from the Dollar Tree. They have arts and crafts section at the Dollar Tree. So I found some felt, I hot glued it onto the box, and not only that, but the box opens, so if I want to, I can actually put the felt characters and things inside of, I have a gallon baggie, and put it inside of the box and close the box up and then leave it in the center, and the children can actually act it out or do it as well. You don't have to, but it's an extra little thing that the children may enjoy doing, especially if it's a story that they know, so they'll be able to tell the story all on their own, or even make up a different story using those same characters. That's fine too. And this is a great way to spice up the story, because if it is something that they have heard so many different times, just presenting it to them in a different way adds another element to the story that will have them more focused on what it is you're doing. The fifth way to keep your preschoolers engaged during story time is by turning the story into a shadow puppet story. So again, I have some props here, and you didn't know this was going to be a prop filled video, did you? So I have some props from a story that is very familiar to them, the gingerbread boy. So what I did was just cut out little figures and colored them black. I took a foam board from the dollar store, cut out a rectangular shape out of the middle, removed it, and then placed parchment paper over that part, taped it, and then had a flashlight, and I just told the story. So again, it's a very familiar story that we've gone over during the school year, but what I'm doing is I'm just adding a different element to it. So these are skewers that I got from the Dollar Tree. Now, but if you want the children to also be able to use it, you can maybe make the characters a little bit bigger, and you can use like craft sticks or something, and then have them perform for the other children in the area or for the class. I have a free back to school training series that I'm going to be doing in July, and I want you to be a part of it. I'm creating a series so that you can walk into your first classroom being prepared and feeling confident. So join the waitlist so that I can keep you up to date and provide you more information about it. So go ahead and click the link in my description. The sixth way to keep your preschoolers engaged during story time is by turning the story into a Google Slides or Canva story. So basically what I've done in the past, I just simply use the images that are there. I use Canva a lot. So I took the images that were on Canva and I made the story. So for instance, I did Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I looked up the different types of elements that I wanted in the story, like a forest, a house, or a cottage. And then I just basically built the story myself. And then I wrote the story and put it at the top of each slide. And then I used it from my computer. You can project it onto the whiteboard in your room and just add something different to a story that is already familiar. Now I'm telling you to do this with stories that they've heard so many times. So those fables that they've heard, Three Little Pigs, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Little Red Riding Hood, all those stories that they've probably heard over and over and over again. You can change it up and it almost becomes like a whole new story for them because it's told in a whole new way. So instead of having book in hand, you can try any of these types of ways to just make it fun, make it a different experience for them, and you will not be disappointed with the results, and they will not be disappointed by hearing a story that they've heard so many times. The seventh way to keep preschoolers engaged during story time is by acting out the story. This is a gold mine. This is one of my favorite ways to present a story. Again, it's using a story that they are familiar with, so it's not like they have to learn any lines. They don't have to, because they know the story, because they've heard it so many different times. So what you're doing is you're just having them act it out. You're picking children to be characters, asking for volunteers, whatever you like, and then they're just presenting. You can even tell the story and they're just doing the movements. It's such a fun way, it's such a fun interactive way for the children to partake in the whole story process. Definitely include acting out the story into your rotation. You're probably thinking, well, I don't have time to not only do the things that are my regular responsibilities in the classroom and make shadow puppets and the screen and stuff like that. Well, start with the first 3 things: changing your voice and using props from the dramatic play area, and also using your emotions. Start there, and then when you have time to actually create these things, you can add them into the rotation of however it is you deliver the story. And of course, nothing beats, plain book in hand, but if you want to just spark up a little more enthusiasm for your story time, then include these things every once in a while. That's all I'm saying. Because I do believe that if you have children coming up to you and asking you to read a story or read a story that they are familiar with again and again and again, that maybe it has more to do with the way that you are delivering the story as opposed to the story itself. And of course, it could be one of their favorite stories, but it's just your touch to the story that makes it an even better experience for your children. So what does this have to do with classroom management? The fact that you are sitting in a large group and you're delivering the story. Now, they can either be engaged with you and the story, or they will be engaged with whatever it is around them, whether it's their friends, whether it's, people coming in and out of the classroom, whether it is lint on the floor. So what you want is you want them to be fully immersed in the story, and then this way they will only be focusing on you and the story, and not focused on other things that could be like huge distractions for them. I wanted to include this video because knowing how to do these little different variations to keep the children engaged, it'll alleviate some of that stress of trying to get children to come to the rug, or get children to sit and listen, and get children to not, play with their buddies next to them. So that is why keeping them engaged will help you with your classroom management, because you're not putting out a whole bunch of different little fires as you're trying to read a story to them. A lot of things can go wrong during story time. I've seen it, and I have also used all of these things that I have talked about. If you're in that situation, you grab a book, you read it, and you do some of these things, that I have mentioned, it will change your experience, and it will have them stuck to their seats and their eyes glued on you. I hope that you have had a chance to take a lot of notes on these 7 ways to keep preschoolers engaged during story time, and I'm sure that these ways will help you nurture their love for stories and for reading for years to come. Let me know in the comments which way that you're gonna try the next time you're in the classroom, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you know when the next video will be posted. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye!